The 1990 Jefferson nickel might look like just another small change in your pocket, but what if I told you that some of these nickels are worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars today? Yes, that tiny 5-cent coin you may have tossed in a jar or ignored in your wallet could actually carry hidden treasure value. The Jefferson Nickel series has been running since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, and over the decades, certain years and varieties have gained enormous attention from collectors. And the 1990 Jefferson Nickel is no exception. It's one of those coins that people often overlook, but smart collectors know its potential. So let's dive deep into the story, the details, and most importantly, the big money value behind the 1990 Jefferson Nickel. First, let's talk about the design. On the obverse side, you see Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and author of the Declaration of Independence. His portrait is bold, facing left, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," surrounding his image. On the reverse side, you'll find Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home, a design that's been iconic for generations. While the design may feel common, it's the quality, errors, mint marks, and rare conditions that set apart certain 1990 nickels and make them worth a fortune. Now, the 1990 Jefferson Nickel was struck at two major mints: Philadelphia, which used no mint mark, and Denver, with a D mint mark on the right side of Jefferson's portrait. Both mints produced millions of these coins, over 661 million from Philadelphia and more than 1.5 billion from Denver. At first glance, with numbers that high, you'd think the coin has no rarity. But here's the exciting part: rarity in coins doesn't always come from mintage numbers. It comes from condition, errors, and collector demand. Let's break down the value. A typical 1990 Jefferson nickel you find in your change is worth face value, 5 cents. But that's just the starting point. When we talk about coins in higher grades, especially uncirculated or mint state condition, the value skyrockets. For example, a 1990 Jefferson nickel in mint state 65 can bring in anywhere between $10 and $30, depending on eye appeal and luster. That's already hundreds of times its face value. But it doesn't stop there. Coins graded MS-67 or higher become truly scarce. A Jefferson nickel graded MS-67 has sold for over $700 at auction. And if you can find one in MS-68, which is nearly flawless, you're talking about a coin that can fetch thousands of dollars. Yes, thousands for a 5-cent piece from 1990. But what about proof coins? In 1990, the San Francisco Mint struck proof versions of the Jefferson nickel, carrying the S mint mark. These coins were made especially for collectors, with sharp details and mirrored fields. While regular proof coins in PR69 condition might sell for $5 to $20, the rare cameo or deep cameo designations, especially at PR70 perfection, can bring in hundreds of dollars. Some deep cameo examples have even pushed values over $1,000, depending on the grading company and demand at the time. Now let's get to the real treasure, the errors. Error coins are like jackpots for collectors. They transform an ordinary coin into something rare, unique, and valuable. The 1990 Jefferson nickel has several fascinating error varieties that make it a true standout. One of the most famous errors is the off-center strike. When a coin is struck off-center, part of the design is missing, and the result is a unique, one-of-a-kind error. A 1990 Jefferson nickel with a 50% off-center strike can easily sell for $200 to $500 or more, depending on its condition and how dramatic the error looks. Another valuable error is the double die, where parts of the design show doubling due to a misalignment in the die during striking. On the 1990 Jefferson nickel, doubled lettering on "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" can bring serious collector interest. Some of these have sold for $300 to $800, and higher grade examples can break the $1,000 mark. And then there's the full steps designation, one of the holy grails for Jefferson nickel collectors. On the reverse side, the Monticello building has steps, and a coin that shows all 5 or 6 steps clearly, without wear or strike weakness, is incredibly rare. In fact, a 1990 Jefferson nickel with full steps in mint state 67 sold for over $1,500 at auction. That's a jaw-dropping value for a coin most people wouldn't think twice about. The 1990 Jefferson nickel also appears in clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin is missing due to an error in the blank cutting process. These types of errors typically range from $100 to $400, depending on the size of the clip and the coin's condition. So, what should you look for if you have a handful of 1990 nickels? Start by checking the mint mark, Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco proofs with an S. Then check the coin's condition. Does it have sharp detail, bright luster, or even a proof-like appearance? If so, it might be worth grading. Next, inspect for errors, doubling, off-centers, missing elements, or clipped edges. And most importantly, look at the Monticello steps on the reverse. If you can see all the steps clearly, congratulations, you might be holding a very valuable coin.